There's an elevator in the Bellman building. It doesn't always take you where you ask. Sometimes it takes you somewhere else, somewhere you weren't meant to see. People in that part of the city have whispered about it for decades, passing the stories like campfire tales. It always starts the same way. Someone steps into the elevator, presses the button for a normal floor, maybe the second or third, but instead the doors open to something strange, a hallway that shouldn't be there, a place that doesn't make sense, a memory, a nightmare. And when the doors close again, if they ever do, you're never quite the same. That's how it was for the security guard who worked nights there in 1997. He was just doing his rounds as usual. He stepped into the elevator, pushed the button for the second floor, and waited. But the ride took longer than normal. When the doors finally opened, he saw a long, dimly lit corridor that smelled like a hospital. Sharp, sterile, like alcohol and old blood. He took one step out, and then nothing. He came back minutes later, according to the camera. But when he exited, he looked 20 years older. Gray hair, wrinkles that weren't there before, and he never said a word again. He just quit that night and disappeared. No one's seen him since. The first real account came from a woman named Evelyn Sharp in 1974. Her daughter, aged 10, was playing hide and seek in the building while her mother worked late in one of the accounting offices. The girl got into the elevator and didn't come back. After 3 days of police searches, the girl was found sitting on the 10th floor, but the building only had 5. She was dazed, dehydrated, and completely mute. Never spoke another word for the rest of her life. When police tried to access this supposed 10th floor, there was no such thing. Just a maintenance shaft in concrete. People dismissed it as trauma. But Evelyn said her daughter would draw pictures over and over, long hallways lined with hospital beds, figures wrapped in cloth, and a big metal door with no handle. She became obsessed with these drawings, filling entire notebooks with slight variations. Sometimes the hallway lights were flickering, sometimes the sheets on the beds were stained, sometimes the door at the end was slightly ajar with darkness spilling out. One disturbing drawing showed a row of figures under the sheets, except one had its head turned, watching. Evelyn claimed that her daughter would wake up screaming in the night, not speaking, but pointing toward corners of the room, trembling. Once she tore out every drawing she'd ever made and tried to flush them down the toilet. When Evelyn asked why, the girl only wrote on a piece of paper, "He doesn't like when I remember." She never explained who he was. A psychiatrist said it was a stress response. But Evelyn always believed her daughter had seen something real, something no child should ever see. Others followed. An accountant in 1982 took the elevator alone one night after drinks. He said it opened to his childhood home, exactly how it looked before it burned down when he was 7. Same photos on the walls, same broken lamp. He ran. He told co-workers the next day and then quit. But in later interviews, he described more. The air inside the home was too still, like the moment before a storm. He said the TV was playing a cartoon he hadn't seen since he was a toddler, but it was looped strangely, the characters repeating the same frame over and over. The kitchen clock was ticking backwards. He thought he heard someone humming a lullaby from the basement, a voice he recognized but hadn't heard in decades. He walked to the hallway where his bedroom once was, and at the end of it saw a door that had never been there. When he tried to open it, he felt something tug on his sleeve from behind, hard, yanking him back into the elevator. That's when the doors closed and he was back in the building, alone and sweating. He told no one for years, but said it haunted his dreams. The layout of that version of his house, the backwards clock, the humming, the door at the end, kept reappearing in his sleep over and over, like it was waiting. Locals began calling it the door between. Some whispered it was haunted, a cursed elevator that carried souls rather than people, a remnant of a dark past no one dared to speak about openly. Others believed it was far stranger, a crack in the fabric of reality itself, a tear where dimensions overlapped or bled into each other. Rumors spread in hushed conversations and online forums, growing more elaborate with each telling. Some said the elevator was tied to secret government experiments, a leftover from failed attempts to manipulate time or space. Others insisted it was alive in some way, responding not to buttons, but to emotions. If you were grieving, it would carry you back to your most painful memories. If you were terrified, it might force you to confront your worst fears. Some locals claimed it revealed moments connected to their deaths, showing glimpses of futures or alternate paths where things went wrong. Paranormal investigators flocked to the building, hoping to capture evidence. EMF meters spiked wildly near the elevator, even when the building's power was off. Audio recordings picked up eerie sounds, faint childlike laughter echoing down corridors, alarms from deserted hospitals, slow, heavy breathing that no one could explain. One particularly unsettling tape captured a man stepping out of the elevator twice at the exact same time. In one clip, he wore a bright red jacket, in the other, a deep blue. Both clips shared the same timestamp and camera angle, impossible to reconcile by any normal logic. In 2012, Matthew Lang, a dedicated urban explorer and YouTuber, took a deep interest in the Bellman building. Known online as Bellman Witness, he began posting detailed videos and research about the elevator. He interviewed former employees, sifted through city archives, and analyzed blueprints that never matched the building's actual layout. What he found were hidden reports, references to event loops in elevator maintenance logs, strange notations about passengers trapped in recursive loops, unable to exit or found disoriented in places that didn't exist. He uncovered police dispatch calls with terrified voices begging for rescue, describing how the elevator took them somewhere wrong. These calls often ended abruptly or with incomprehensible screams. Despite the alarming evidence, the general public dismissed these stories as urban legends or hoaxes. But for Matthew, it became an obsession, a mystery to unravel no matter the risk. And then, one day, he disappeared without a trace. On March 3, 2014, Matthew live-streamed his exploration of the abandoned building. By then, the Bellman building was mostly deserted, save for a handful of squatters and vandals. Armed with a flashlight, body camera, and steady nerves, he entered the elevator and pressed the button for the third floor. At first, everything seemed normal. The elevator moved smoothly, the numbers lit up as expected. But suddenly, the video feed glitched and went completely black for 5 seconds. When the image returned, the elevator's interior lights no longer shone white. Instead, they flickered an unnatural, ghostly blue. The familiar mechanical hum was replaced by a low, distorted drone that seemed to vibrate through the camera's microphone. The doors slid open, not onto the expected hallway, but into an underground parking garage overtaken by nature. Trees had burst through cracked cement, thick roots wrapped around rusted cars, and the ceiling was gone, revealing a sky blood red and unnaturally still. Matthew stepped out cautiously, narrating his disbelief, filming the alien scene. Then the camera abruptly cut off. No screams, no struggle, just silence. Matthew Lang was never seen again. Those who return from the elevator often report strange places that make no sense. One woman said the doors opened to a hallway full of clocks, all ticking out of sync. At the end of the hallway, she saw a hospital room with herself lying in the bed. Another claimed she entered a replica of her childhood room, but the view outside the window was just black, endless space. Some say they see people they lost long ago. Others describe cities that never existed or stairwells that loop in impossible directions. One described a waiting room full of people without faces who all turned when he stepped out. Most disturbing of all, a woman who said the elevator took her to a funeral, her own. She watched it like a guest, Her husband and kids were there, crying. She remembered none of their faces afterward. The city tried to demolish the Bellman building multiple times. Each effort failed. Workers reported strange injuries, missing tools, power outages. One elevator expert said the wires didn't match any known design. He called it a black box system, sealed, unhackable, autonomous. Eventually, the building was boarded up, but people still got in. Teenagers, thrill seekers, occultists, and sometimes they didn't come out. In 2023, the city finally succeeded in tearing it down. Officially, the elevator was dismantled, but weeks later, strange reports surfaced from a small town 200 miles away. An abandoned mall had an elevator that wasn't listed on any blueprint. One boy who entered it during a TikTok live stream hasn't been seen since. His last words, "Wait, this doesn't look like the food court." The video ends with a loud mechanical click, then silence. So if you ever find yourself in a building that feels too quiet and the elevator opens before you press a button, don't step inside. Don't test the myth. Don't ask where it goes, because it doesn't take you where you want. It takes you where you need to go, and you may not come back.